Plymouth Charter Commission meeting in the Shallop Room at the Town Hall. The normal meeting place, the Great Hall, is full of early voting gear. So tonight, we are having a working session, a meeting here in the Shallop Room. It's still a Zoom webinar and can be viewed live on the local government channel 15, Comcast, and Verizon 47. This meeting is being recorded. It'll be run just like previous hybrid meetings with a Zoom capability as well as in person. Zoom attendees should register using the Zoom webinar link on the Charter Commission page of the town website. And if they wish to speak during public comment, which is 8:30 on our agenda, please use the raise hand icon on the lower portion of your screen. In person tonight for public comment, just let us know during public comment that you wish to speak and get close to one of the microphones on the table here that has the little green circle in the middle. These are the common mics that we're all using. So I don't see any flag tonight, so we will move right into the meat of the meeting. Before we start the discussions, I assume the Collins team is present by Zoom?
Pat is here.
Pat
Pat's
is
on.
Okay.
I am here.
Very good, Pat.
Here.
I just want to make one announcement.
Log time to log on.
Pat, you ready? So I just want to make one comment at the beginning that we did hear back today from Anderson and Krieger, our special counsel, who addressed the two questions that we sent to them a couple weeks ago. And they found that both items that were in our charter that we asked them to give us their legal opinion on, they said that both of them are consistent with state law and are therefore okay to be included in the charter. One had to do with the alternate member of the planning board, the associate member having full powers, and they found that was okay. And the other one had the election of the moderator by the town meeting. And it's an interesting discussion. They found that was okay. So both of them will stay in the charter as they have been drafted. So tonight I want to, first, we had announced we're going to have 3 votes on 3 specific provisions tonight. But first let me ask, is Larry here? Larry Pizer here by Zoom? Okay. So I think we're all here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I guess we're missing Scott.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Larry. Yep.
Okay.
Very good. We just missed a 9th member. While we're waiting for Scott to arrive, we can proceed with with the next item, which are edits, and then we can go back to the 3 votes. So I had a few edits from members of this commission today. We can take these up and address them. First edit was to the preamble, and Frank and Betsy both weighed in on it. And the language that we're proposing to be adopted is in this draft of the charter tonight. Each of you have a red line draft in your packet, which were all the changes basically through this hour. We had a previous draft, which was Friday's draft, and then over the weekend, Michelle put into this charter the changes that had been drafted by the Collins team, and they're in there, so that's up to date. And the final change, as far as this provision, the preamble, that was also put in. So please turn to page 5. Actually, Michelle, I don't see the edits we made today to the preamble. They're not in here yet, right? Frank's and Betsy's.
I didn't put both of their changes.
Okay, so I have, those were sent to you by separate emails. First I sent you Frank's, then I sent you Betsy's. So if you find that email, the language would read as follows. Frank first gave us some substantive wording. Betsy made some minor changes to it, but also moved the paragraphs around. as to which was number 1, 2, and 3. I personally thought her language and additions to what Frank had done improved the charter preamble. So we're proposing, as Frank and Betsy have edited it today, it would read as follows. The first paragraph would be what was previously the third paragraph. So the first paragraph would start off to promote direct and inclusive democracy for all of the citizens of Plymouth and to actively encourage their participation in the governance of the town. So basically, she took the third paragraph and moved it to the beginning and took out the word decision-making, I'm sure because she thought that was redundant with the word governance. The second paragraph then is the old number 1 first paragraph, and it would read, to provide its citizens with an efficient and benevolent government that supports the creation and maintenance of equitable housing, provides education and employment opportunities, ensures public health and safety, and is in harmony with, in harmony with and protective of our natural environment, including the rights of nature. Betsy had edited it slightly, and I read it as it had been edited. Betsy had one question: what does this mean as to what employment opportunities?
Yeah.
I guess
What employment opportunities does the town provide besides working for the town hall?
Well, I just think that, no, not necessarily working for the town, but just a town that encourages business to
Yeah,
come in.
encourages businesses and jobs and things.
All right.
That was the intent of my draft.
Okay, so I just wondered what it meant. I was
Yep.
just asking the,
So that's the second paragraph. The third paragraph then would read, to provide the infrastructure required to support an exceptional quality of life for its citizens, including public works, parks, and open space. See, there's a few words changed from what we read previously.
I would like to restore the word facilities to that list,
Okay,
because public works in my mind is roads, bridges, DPW kind of stuff, as in PW, but facilities is kind of separate, just restore it. We had it before.
yes, we did. Where was the word?
It says including facilities, public works,
So it'd
parks,
be
and open
before
space.
public works.
Yeah,
yeah, I agree with that.
yeah,
Yeah,
So-
I don't know how I missed it, but,
yeah.
So what I just read with David's addition of the word, putting facilities back before public works,
yes.
Yes.
that's the current draft that's before us. Frank, you had made your edits, you okay with this now?
Oh, yeah.
So you're all in favor of this, okay? Very good. So those are Betsy's
And number 4
edits.
was to take out the words "the tools necessary" and just to provide for long-range planning.
So the
I
number,
wasn't really understanding what the
yeah, the
tools
fourth one was
necessary
just,
meant.
the fourth paragraph, which we had almost no changes, would just say to provide, delete the words "the tools necessary," just say to provide for long-range planning, to assist the status of the purposes above and proactively provide for adaptations to meet these goals. To this mission, we the people of Plymouth assert our willingness to have, exercise, and enjoy all the rights, immunities, powers, and privileges, and be subject to all the duties and obligations provided for in this charter. To live and grow, it should be grow, right? Not
Grow, yes,
Yeah.
right.
in freedom, dignity, and tranquility.
Did you get that, Michelle?
It's the.
Change grow to grown?
It's already on the
Oh,
chart.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, she's got
It's kind of fitting we're meeting here in a small room. I was thinking as I was reading this, rather than meeting in the Great Hall, this is kind of the equivalent of being in the Mayflower, one of those little
I'm
rooms
sure to
in
change it, yeah.
in Provincetown Bay.
Smells a lot nicer than Mayflower.
Okay, so we've got the preamble done. The,
And I agree, I think they're all improvements. It's nice refinement.
good. Next, we had changes to 3-2-6. Which was
What
a-
page is that, on the August 23rd master draft? What page
What page is that, Bill? On
It's
the
on the
draft?
page, 3-, if you look at tonight's draft, I'll give you the page.
There's a hard
number.
copy in your packet.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
I just want to follow along.
28.
Page 28. Look at that.
28, this is one of the select board provisions as to what they're supposed to be doing.
3 dash what?
3-2-6.
It's,
It's actually on
Page 28, but toward the bottom.
Six,
Yeah,
line
there it is.
632, there it is.
So let's see, Betsy first edited it. And then I made some further edits, and I think Betsy made some additional edits. So the final version, we've got two final versions. Good evening, Scott. We have two final versions. One was one we worked out this morning, and the other one, Betsy's got a little additional wording. So let me first, what I had come up with would read as follows. It's a little less wordy. Basically, there was no difference of opinion on what the clause is supposed to mean. It was just clarity in being sure that it read that way. So here is what they're suggesting. And then I'll give you Betsy's edits. It would read, "The select board and individual members thereof shall be responsible through the town manager for the efficient and orderly operation of all agencies of the town except those under the direction of another town agency." So that basically is very similar to what's already in the charter.
Another elected town agency.
Yeah, other elected. And then the next sentence could read, "Furthermore, neither the select board nor its individual members shall deal with, comma, or give direct orders to, comma, any such employee who is under the direction and guidance of the town manager, the supervision of the town manager." Basically, we had those words "deal with" in the first sentence, and it was confusing because there were really two different concepts in the first sentence. One had to do with who the select board should
Responsibilities as
contact,
opposed to.
and the other concept in the first sentence was being responsible to good operation of the town. So they're quite different. And it was, we were getting confused in the language, so I think this separates it nicely and makes it clear. So that this paragraph, number one, says they only operate through the employees by going through the town manager. Second, their select board is responsible through the employees, again, acting through the town manager for the efficient operation of the town. And lastly, the last sentence says, the select board shall deal with and shall not deal with or issue direct orders to any employee who is under the supervision of the town manager.
Is there a better word than deal with? I'm just asking.
Because what if you're looking for, say, a selectman is has some type of proposal that involves a department, and he's looking for information or something like that, or he wants to make a phone call and say, hey, clarify what this means for me.
Scott, he goes to the town manager.
And you should go through the town manager under the current charter. I just was wondering if there was a better word than deals
Yeah,
with.
deal.
I like looking for a better word. I can't
Yeah.
think of one at the moment, though. It is
Yeah.
awkward, though.
It's just a little awkward whether it's,
To deal with isn't quite it.
yep, I like to
Okay.
give direct orders to,
All right, so
but deal with is kind of big.
Facilitate?
no, the idea is somebody you go and talk to and sort of work something out with.
Communicate with?
Communicates maybe a better word. I think
Yeah, I think that's better than deal with.
Yeah,
change deals with to.
I like communicate with, yeah.
Yep.
I like that word much better.
Okay, so
Interact?
Direct.
Interact even would be my, yeah.
How about
We already
word
have
direct?
give direct orders.
direct.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it already says direct. I like interact with.
interact has something of a,
Yeah.
sort of a, I don't know, communicates to me sort of what we're up
Okay.
to.
I'm okay with communicate with.
So we're all in favor of, should we take communicate?
So
Can I have a little more time?
trying to catch up on where we are.
This-
We're-
Page
we're on
28.
Page 28,
Come back to
326.
this a little later on in the meeting.
We're on
talking
line
about
3,
deal with,
Yep.
communicate, and take the word deal and make it communicate.
page 28.
Page
line
28, line
636.
572.
Oh, I got it as line 636.
635.
Okay, forget the line numbers, that are different
635 to
depending on how it's printed out.
637,
Okay. Oh, we're not all the same line then?
Well,
So,
actually, no, I had the
no-
wrong, you're right, 636 6:35.
636 says the.
No
shall
commas are
deal with.
needed after with or orders, or to.
No, there should be a comma after
So you're
with,
trying to say that no selectman
Not-
can
not the
communicate
English
with
teacher in
any
me,
town
But,
employee?
because,
Correctly,
because
correct.
of the way it
That's
says
what the
with
intent of
comma,
this
or
is.
give direct
So
orders
if,
to,
if
comma,
I'm, if
any
I'm a
such
selectman
employee.
and I'm walking down the
That's the-
street
not with or.
and I see,
Yeah.
With and, no, well, anyway, I'll look it up.
no, not
later.
Dale, or
But I would
somebody,
like a little
Michelle.
more time to think
And I
about that
can't
sentence.
go talk to Michelle,
So
and,
could
because
we vote on
that's
it
what
in
we're putting in
a
here, is
few
that
minutes?
if I'm,
Could we
if
come
I'm,
back to it?
if-
Well, if you read the next sentence with it, it's more direct orders.
yeah, no, but if you're putting in that you're not allowed to communicate with any town employee, if you're a selectman, and say,
Exactly right.
say he's a selectman again, and he sees Michelle, and they say, hey, Michelle, how you doing? You want a coffee? I'm getting a coffee, blah, 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 then he's violating the
I
charter.
agree with that,
So
so
I
I'm
mean,
trying
I
to
think we're
think of
going
a
a
better
little.
way.
No, yeah, and
Life's
that's,
a pendulum.
this is what, all I said was, deal with was kind of vague, is there a better word?
And you put communicate with. Right,
It was
so-
just a suggestion.
Yeah. So, but I mean, here's the thing, okay, so like Brian lives around the corner from both of us, he's the selectman again, he sees Brian is up on his lawn, he stops, he says, hi, Brian's a town employee, so technically he's violating the charter, I just
Right,
think that's a little,
I
that's a
get,
little much.
I get what you're saying. Is there a better word?
On town matters?
Yeah?
On town matters.
Furthermore, neither the select board nor its individual members shall give direct or indirect orders to any such employee who is under the direction and supervision of the town manager.
Just
Leave
take that
out
sentence
deal
out?
with. Yeah,
Yeah,
leave
just
out
drop
deal
it,
with.
drop
Just-
it.
So furthermore, neither the select board nor its individual members shall give direct or indirect orders to any such employee who is under the
I don't think
direction
that
and
goes far enough,
supervision of the
Betsy,
town.
because we're talking about more than just orders. We're talking about people calling and asking for information, or,
Yeah,
you know, it's more than simply giving an order.
unless you,
Well, that's why I
unless
said
you
indirect
clarify,
orders.
Well,
communicate,
indirect doesn't mean
communicate,
anything.
in town
Officially.
business.
Communicate
Yeah, officially, or,
How about
yeah, communicate in
officially?
town matters.
Or communicate in town matters, officially, either one.
Yeah,
Furthermore, neither the select board
What
nor its
about,
individuals
I like Ressling's idea about communicate and add on town matters.
yeah,
on town
yeah,
matters, or give direct orders to any such
Yeah.
employee.
yeah, I like that.
All right, that sounds
I
good.
think Mike on Collins wanted to say something.
Oh, thanks.
Any comment from Collins?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I shared Commissioner Becky's concerns that communicate is gonna, leaves open all kinds of potential issues, especially in light of the additional charter enforcement section. I mean, I get what you're going for, but I think that's far, and I'm trying to understand indirect orders. Could that also be counted as the select board itself? Or
Mike,
I'm,
we had suggested, now we moved on a bit, so it'd be communicate on town matters with.
Are you okay with communicate on town matters with?
I think it's still, like I said, it's, you're bumping him, I bump him, Michelle, or he bumps it, well, you see, you're a, you can be a selectman again. All right, so-
right, I'm okay.
But, and
Yeah.
and like I said,
Been there, done that.
around the corner, Brian's mowing his lawn. Hey, how's it going? How's everything at the firehouse? Is everything good? You know what I mean? Just like like you would with anybody else.
Mike,
And now he's violating the charter.
But
Right?
the-
It's just-
okay.
It's just way too much.
All right, but the intent of what we're talking about here is we've had problems where selectmen have
Right.
interacted.
And still do, yes. But I get the point. But you can't put it. You know, we can't have the cone of silence, right? We can't.
Okay, what's a better suggestion, that's all.
I just, like I said, communicate is like, you know, like we're you know, we're gonna get the get smart cone of silence, and we can't talk to him if we see him on the street, you know?
I know, I just think taking that sentence out,
I love him to get smart.
to Mr. Abbott's point, is that it doesn't go far enough.
Scott, it seems to be communicate in town matters is, anybody reading the charter knows exactly what we're talking about. It's not somebody mowing the lawn asking if everything's fine down at the town hall. You're communicating on town matters. If you, official, I think, goes too far.
I just, like I said, I giving orders or giving direction, or, you know, a selectman calling up the DPW director and saying, you know, my road's shitty and it needs to be repaved. That's what we're looking at here. I mean, like I said, just communicating in general with people. Like I said, it's just, I think communicating is, that word is just too broad.
But we're specifying it by saying in town town governance.
Maybe it's better just to drop out, deal with, and just say, give direct or indirect orders
On
to
town
the
matters.
employees.
Under
Mike
their
wants to know what an
jurisdiction.
indirect order
Yeah,
is.
or do you even drop out the indirect, but I'm just saying,
Yes.
that does not preclude
Right.
talking about, my roads in poor shape or what's happening at the firehouse.
Over here, Bill Cohan, what's your suggestion?
Oh, no, I was just saying that we might to direct on matters under their jurisdiction or responsibilities. So we stay away from, if you're talking to somebody on the street about, hey, you work for the town, do you think the town plowed the roads the last storm, the snowstorm well? Now you're talking about town matters, but this person might be working the fire department or the police department or some other aspect. So my thought was that you say direct on town matters under their jurisdiction. So now if I start talking to the Director of Public Works about fixing, doing something, fix a pothole in front of my street, that's not the vehicle in which you communicate with the Department of Public Works. You do it through the town manager's office and not through that means. So if you say, give direction to an employee under their responsibilities, now you're zeroing in on what Scott's saying and avoiding what Michael is saying, that you're being too vague and getting yourself into trouble. I don't know, I just.
Because I think it's important because this has come up, and this has been brought up
Again and
to
again.
selectmen in the past, that they've kind of skirted this. So it would be good to make it a little more refined so that we can say, look, you did skirt here, you didn't skirt it.
Well, and I think what Scott said earlier was important, is, we have to be really clear, because otherwise people are violating the charter.
Right.
And they'll drop a dime on them and say, you talk to the DPW, it's gotta be clear.
May I
Right.
make a suggestion? Let's divide that sentence. Furthermore, neither the select board, and I'm not exactly sure of the words, neither the select board nor its individual members shall communicate with any such employee who is under the direction and supervision of the town manager, or give them direct orders, something like that, or,
Yeah, but every town.
Larry, did you have a suggestion? Supervisor.
I did. I'm very much in favor of separating the select board from, direct orders. But, the select board is responsible, for example, for, elections and setting the time of election. And the town manager isn't. And therefore, a member of the select board ought to be able to communicate, for example, with the town clerk directly, as long as he's not giving the town clerk orders. I think we have to separate the communication from the giving of direct orders.
So you'd like just to say, just not give direct orders to,
Yes.
okay? That's-
So
Does that
just
go far enough?
strike shall deal
Yeah.
with.
so, can I
Yeah,
ask a
I-
question?
To be clear,
Betsy, go ahead.
So, Mike, you asked about indirect orders? Was it Mike who asked about indirect orders?
Yeah, I was having trouble wrapping my head around what that exactly.
I brought up indirect orders because I was looking for a way to say that besides direct orders, we don't want hinting or suggestions. A direct order and a suggestion are quite different. So I was looking for a way to indicate it's not just a direct order, but it's interfering in the department in some
I
way.
think I'd
That's not a
rather have
direct
it just say orders, not say
Okay.
direct or indirect. Indirect is too vague and
Okay.
ambiguous.
All right,
If we just said orders, we wouldn't have to have
or give
the,
orders, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. all
I
right.
like that.
yep, that works.
so it's gonna read, neither the select board nor its individual members shall give orders to. Got it? Okay. Very good, we'll make that, everybody in favor of
And
that?
then we lose the comma, right?
Yep.
Yes,
You don't
and
need a
to
comma.
deal with and all of that.
So, just bringing back where we've had problems in the past, there was a whole email strain
But
through
you
a
could
select board member to town employees.
But you
And-
could construe a lot of those emails as giving orders.
I think we all know, and I think the Board of Selectmen is gonna know what the intent is here.
Okay.
You're trying to fine tune it to the nth degree, and I don't think you can.
I'm not trying to fine tune it, I'm trying to give direction to those people who are trying to enforce the charter.
You
Right.
have no select board, nor its individual members shall give direct orders to any such employee. That's
Okay.
crystal clear.
We took out the word direct.
Word direct, shall give orders.
Orders.
Okay, scratch direct. Okay, I mean, that's crystal
Yeah.
clear. If the
Okay.
board members can't understand that, then they deserve to be.
And then somebody has to make a complaint.
Okay,
And somebody
So this
makes
is-
a complaint. We have charter
wait,
enforcement.
one at a time, Frank.
The Provincetown Charter says it this way: "The select board and individual members thereof shall deal with employees who are under the direction and supervision of the town manager solely through the town manager. Furthermore, neither the select board nor its individual members should give direct orders to any such
I
employee."
like that, I like that solely through.
The word solely was missing before.
Yeah,
If we
Yeah,
add the
I-
word solely into what we
adding the word solely would do it for me.
makes a difference.
Yeah.
Frank, read it again slowly, please.
The select board and individual members thereof
Yep.
shall deal with employees who are under the direction and supervision of the town manager solely through the town manager. Furthermore, neither the select board nor its individual members shall give direct orders to any such employee.
I like that, solely.
I would be in favor of scratching our section and including that verbatim, because that
Yeah.
covers exactly what you
Yes,
want.
yeah.
That's exactly what you want. How's
Yeah.
that, Scott?
Yeah, the
I mean,
word
it's better, I mean,
solely
you can still
solves the
talk to
problem.
people, it just means you're not giving them direction.
Yeah.
Okay, one more time, Frank, we're gonna adopt that then. There's one thing that's left out, but go ahead. Select
Read
board,
it again.
yeah, select board,
The select board
individual members thereof.
and individual members thereof shall deal with employees who are under the direction and supervision of the town manager
Okay.
solely through the town manager, period.
Now, what about the concept of being responsible through the town manager for the efficient and orderly operation of
That
all?
stays. I
That
think that
stays.
stays.
All
We
right.
add that sentence though. Scratch this one.
Okay, Michelle, do we have it?
You know, I'm gonna ask
I'm gonna send it to
Frank,
you,
he's gonna
Michelle,
send
yeah.
it to
He's
you.
gonna send it to you.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Larry, did you have a comment?
Yes, I did. Where there are responsibilities that the select board has, that are different from the responsibilities that the town manager has. And where we are, basically tying the hands of the select board too much. I think the problem is the direct orders, the problem is not the communicating.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Bill.
I thought the same thing, Larry, that it's nice to fine tune the language around this concern that the Charter Commission has. But at the same time, we need to recognize that the Select Board is elected by the people of Plymouth. People are going to go to their Select Board members, they're going to ask for help on town matters, and the Select Board members need to have a vehicle in which to satisfy satisfy the needs of the constituent. So a lot of elected officials have, where they're required to funnel these questions somewhere, there is something called constituent services, where the elected officials can go to someone, ask for this assistance. The assistance would be provided in a timely manner, because theoretically, this select person could go to the town manager, ask for this assistance, and get silence. So we don't want that to happen. So we want to have, I'm not proposing anything right now, we're early in the process, this is interesting in how we're addressing this, but I keep going back to this idea. I don't want a town, like Larry says, we don't want to tie the hands of our elected officials to engage the town in a constructive way. And yes, defining this relationship is important, but we might want to counteract it with some sort of entity called constituent services so that the elected officials can engage the town managers properly and get information in a timely manner. By the way, the residents could call and ask for this information too, and ask for some response to their needs. So I just think it's something that we need to be careful, because they are elected officials. We empower them to represent us when it comes to engaging our government. So it's something to think about.
Okay, Bill, I'm gonna,
I like, I still have a problem with deal with in
That's
that sentence.
That's
We took it
correct.
out.
No, we didn't, we put it back because that's in this,
yeah, it's,
Providence.
Providence.
and so, like I said, deal with.
And
Dale's road didn't get plowed. You know what I mean? And I see Dale and he says, hey, my road didn't get plowed. And what am I gonna say? Call the town manager? You know
No,
what I mean?
but the
It's-
vehicle that we're talking about is, a town member says to a select board member, I've got a problem. The select board member is obligated to bring it back to the select board. At any meeting, I've heard multiple times the select board said, I've got a bunch of complaints on whatever road, and that's the vehicle, and it's up to the select board to say to the town manager, we need this looked at. And it's up to the select board to say, did you look at it?
Or just do like I did 1,000 times. If there's a problem, Scott says I got a problem. I pick up the phone, I call the town manager. There's a problem, deal with it. And if it was DPW, 9 times out of 10, all the town manager said to me, deal with it, this is your gig.
Right.
Just pick up the phone and call the town manager. You
Right.
don't need this constituent services, because I'll tell you what's gonna happen. You're creating another position, and every time we create another position, we're adding to the tax burden.
So, we haven't made any change yet? Betsy?
I don't think Billy's
I
saying
wanted to
create
hear
an
what
office, I
Larry
was saying
Kaiser-
services. I think he's
One at a
saying
time,
that.
let's go. Betsy's on the, got the floor.
I would like to know what Larry Pizer is proposing in terms of these non-town manager responsibilities that the select board has. Do you have language for that, Larry?
My language, I generally tend towards simplification. And so my language is that we leave the section where it says, no select board member shall give direct orders. But the select board in gathering information ought to have the ability to communicate with department heads and division heads.
And they do, as long as they clear it with the town manager. That's all. It's
So
self-explanatory.
it works that way through you. I think that, you talk about intent, that the section that you read 5 times talks about intent, and I think you're saying that the select board would look at the intent. The intent is that you go through the town manager.
So wait, are we okay with Frank's, what he read, with changing just look at the word deal and make it communicate and leave, and.
But no, we're still missing the sentence that you pointed out. I want the sentence in there that the select board shall be
Yeah,
responsible
that's-
through the town manager for the efficient.
That
That's
was
still
from our current chart.
Right,
But if-
but I would like to keep it
Okay, I
and
got
blend
it.
it into
I got it.
Provincetown language.
So when I did this, I took the thing up, actually out of Provincetown, I admit it, but put it with our own language.
Right.
Yes.
But it's not as clear as it should have been, that's what we're working on.
Yeah.
But I
So,
think we keep the two together. Betsy?
I still haven't heard from Larry how he wants
He
this
didn't
to
have an
read.
answer.
He says he wants to leave it like it is.
Okay, I think we're all set. We spent enough time on this
I
one.
have something to say.
Yes.
And like I said, if we're gonna leave deal with in there,
No, I suggested communicate with.
I thought we left it to deal.
communicate with was back to like, we can't waive to.
Well, I thought-
I thought we dropped all that and just said give orders to.
No, we
Provincetown.
talked about what Frank read.
Right, Frank
That's right.
read it.
So
Fred read
if we're
deal
if we're gonna have deal with in there, I would like to say outside of basic constituent services, because like Billy said, they're just because they're an employee doesn't mean they're not a taxpayer, doesn't mean they're a voter, doesn't mean that they can't, they made it, that's,
I don't think you need that, Scott. Then there's an implication of something called basic constituent services, whatever that is. And you look in the charter, you're not gonna find it defined anywhere.
but if we're saying that you can't deal with them at all, or now when we're back to communicate with, we're back to that no selectman can have coffee with Michelle when they see her down at Tootie's.
No, we
You'd say
didn't.
department heads.
We're not doing communicate with, we're doing deal with, which is different.
Collins has its hands up.
I mean, it depends on what your
So
definition
you
of
like
deal
deal
with
with
is.
better than communicate with?
Yeah.
Who
Okay.
defines deal with? Who defines what is?
Mr. Chairman, could I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Could I make the suggestion that Michelle write up what Frank said, and we look at it next meeting? I think we've kind of,
There isn't a next meeting in time.
okay.
From Collins, did you have a suggestion? Yes, Frank, Mike.
Sort of. I would like to point the commission toward the top of page 27, section 321. and particularly the second half of that, which covers a lot of the same ground that I believe we were trying to cover already. So if I start reading about 9.599, the select board shall act only by the issuance and adoption of policy guidelines and directives to be implemented and followed by all town agencies, boards, committees, and their respective officers, employees appointed or by under its authority. Town manager shall be the officer responsible for the implementation of policy directives, guidelines adopted by the select board, daily administration, you read the rest, but you get the point. You know, you go down the last sentence. No individual member of the select board nor a majority of them shall at any time attempt to become involved in the day-to-day administration of affairs of the town. So I think you've got a lot of cover there. I know you're trying to also get the direct orders in, but I think everything else other than direct orders is covered pretty clearly in the intent of 321.
I agree.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
So what is left in 3-2-6? Mike, that's a question to you?
Back to me,
Yeah.
I guess you could leave the last, basically the last sentence, that the select board members and the members shall give direct orders to any employee, shall give orders to any employee under the direction of the town manager. It's still a little bit redundant, but if you wanted that extra certainty that the managers, that the
Okay, just a question then, if we keep in the last sentence, then the final question is David's point about keeping in the responsibility for the proper operation of the town's
I like
agencies.
that.
Do you want to keep that in as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So Michelle, we're gonna,
So we're back to deal with out and call it a day.
No, he said take out deal,
Yeah,
just
it's-
do
That's what I
direct
said.
orders.
Just
Said.
orders.
Right,
Yep.
yeah.
all right, we will prepare a draft and circulate it. Michelle, we're okay with this?
I'll figure it out.
Really?
When we drafted this provision, in all honesty, we tried to, really went a little bit as far as we possibly could go because we thought there was a problem we needed to deal with. So there may be some redundancy in this language a bit, but I think we understand where we're coming from now. Okay, let's turn to the actual votes, which we're gonna do tonight because we have 9 members present, 8 in person and 1 on Zoom. And these shouldn't take a long time. The first, and these are all, we're actually revisiting 3 items we previously voted. 2-1-1 is the number of town meeting members per precinct. I think 2 or 3 meetings ago, it was moved to reconsider that and revise the 9 members per precinct, which is what we had voted to keep, to 6 per precinct. We had a 4-4 tie vote. Tonight, we have 9 folks present. So, does anybody want to discuss before we vote?
Well, the only point that I want to bring up
David.
is that 6 really doesn't work, because if you're electing a precinct chair, you can't have an even number, you need an odd number. So it should be either 5 or 7, the way I see it.
But why?
Because if you have 6 members and
Yep.
wrestling is nominated and 3 people vote for wrestling and 3 people don't, he doesn't get the position.
He can vote for himself.
3 and 3, 6.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, you're right.
So
So
how
it
many,
should be either 5 or 7, the way I see it, but
so I think, David, you had proposed 6.
Yes, I had, just I was trying to find sort of a, an even, divisible by 3 with 3-year terms. But there's no reason why it couldn't be 5 or 7 where you have 1 extra number in that
Okay,
3
do
years.
you want to make any change at this point, or just leave it as is?
Do you want to amend your motion to an odd number?
I'm not convinced that an odd number is really required, because if it's tied, then you keep talking until, and usually somebody's gonna step forward and not wanna be the
I suspect
precinct chair.
it's gonna lose anyway, so it can stay at 6.
Okay.
Betsy,
Yeah.
I am not.
Way to push it.
I am not, because we have electronic voting, I'm not seeing the big benefit of going from 9 to 6, because everybody votes at once. The town meeting decides when to close debate, so there can be as much debate as town meeting wants, so I'm just not seeing a big benefit
Well,
between 9 and 6.
Well, if I could repeat my brief arguments, in this recent election and even the one before it, there were only 4 precincts out of the 18 that had actual competition for the positions. Another 4 had 9 people running for 9 openings, and the other 10 had fewer than 9 running for the openings. There was insufficient competition, and I believe it's important to have competition in elections. So that's why, and I want to reduce it to a lower number to ensure more competition and representation.
So I would make a counter argument that Plymouth already has one of the smallest town meetings in the state for the largest town in the state. It just doesn't seem to make sense. The towns that are equivalent in size to Plymouth or slightly smaller have town meetings in the 200 and over range, whether it's Brookline or Arlington or Natick. The other large towns have many, almost 1.5 times as many as we do. Further, I think the idea of not finding candidates is not a good enough reason not to have the broader representation that 9 members per precinct afford us. So I'm a strong believer in keeping town meeting at 9. I think it's already small, but it isn't too small, and I think it functions. Larry, did you have a comment?
Yes, I'm not convinced that lowering the number of seats would make for more competition. I know a lot of people who have looked at town meeting seats and have said, if I'm going to lose, I don't want to run. And therefore, if it was 6 and there were 6 incumbents, I think that they would be it wouldn't be surprising to me that there wouldn't be competition. The challenge that we have is that town meeting does its job because there are enough people with enough viewpoints who are able to reason together and vote. And I'm very much supportive, as our chairman is, of leaving it at 9.
Okay, wrestling.
The only point I would make is during the last bunch of elections, there have been people who were elected to town meeting with 1 or 2 votes. I just think that we talk about, it's the representation of a town. I think that's kind of not really the representation of a town if people are getting elected to town meeting with 1 or 2 votes.
Isn't that a different problem? I mean, you could have only 5 town members per precinct, and that could continue. People could still be getting 2 votes. It seems to me there's that's a different problem. There's not enough people running. So you don't just cut out the number and hope you're going to get more people running.
Well, it's okay. I would argue with that.
Okay.
I don't think I've got any numbers like you said earlier.
One of the things I remember from Amherst when they came is that even on their second election after getting a town council, they had 2 wards with only 1 person running for that whole ward. So I think sometimes competition is based on what's happening in that ward at the time. Maybe people are all generally happy with the person they have and nobody feels it necessary to run. But I think the data that David gave is for our last election, which was after a major reorg.
No, but it also is for the prior one too. It was low turnout and.
One before that.
Yeah, and every town has low turnout
Yeah.
right now in
No, but
Massachusetts, so you're not
a
gonna.
low
to your
number
argument
of
that it was
candidates,
just
but-
this
Let her
last.
finish. Well, let's let Betsy finish. She's got the
Yeah.
floor.
So I'm very much in favor of keeping it at 9, because I'm not seeing that there's gonna be a big benefit changing it to 6, and I think
Okay.
9 is an odd number, which is helpful.
Other comments, Scott?
Well, I wanted 3, but I also wanted a town council, so I'm not getting a lot of things I don't. So, that's my point. I think it should be lowered. We go back to when we start, charter review committee 5 years ago. And from all the way back there, I
17.
said lower.
Yeah.
I said lower it down, make it smooth, make it efficient, make it.
Yeah, I agree. But
Okay, Bill Cohen, you haven't spoken.
Well, I guess, I don't feel as if reducing the number of people at town meetings somehow improved this form of government. That it has proven to me over the years, I go before town meeting year after year presenting articles. And I find that body to be, in attending all the caucuses to sell these articles or explain these articles. And yes, there are times where you may not have a precinct that's very competitive. But there are precincts that are very competitive. They're doing mailings, they're putting up lawn signs. I believe one of the really nice things about town meeting is the ease in which one can participate. It doesn't cost a lot of money. You don't have to come from a political machinery. You can just one day say, you know something, I'm gonna sign up and go to town meeting and pick up that book and weigh in. So the beauty of democracy is the ease of participation at times. Yes, there are people that really dive into it, really get into it, and some people come in and they just kind of look around the room. But with Larry's comments about the size of the body being able to absorb the good and the bad, in the end, town meeting tends to default to a decision that is really based on what's best for the town. I've seen it done time and time again. I have confidence in that. I don't feel at the size of town meeting the problem is. We have other problems with town meeting. I think we're addressing them, but this is the one that I don't think is overbearing. So I'm comfortable with 9.
Well, I'll just close. I suspect we're going to lose. I'm going to lose this vote.
All right, let's do it and see.
But I'll just add that if you look at the progression in governance across the state of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth, open town meeting progressed to representative town meeting. And in general, that tracked the size of the town. Again, I'm a supporter of the council form, as you know, but respectfully working with everybody here. But so I think a smaller town meeting, I'll call it a super town meeting, is part of the progression toward dealing with the complexities of a large town. But
Okay, we ready for the vote? So the current provision is 9 members per precinct. So the vote will be yes to keep it, no to change it to a lower number. And
Mr. Chairman, point of
Yes.
order, I believe the motion was to change it to 6.
well, is that the one we want to vote tonight?
I
yeah,
don't think
Okay.
anyone seconded it.
Yes, it was.
Oh,
No.
did you second it?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that,
Well,
I'm
let's
sorry.
then redo the motion. We'll take it right now.
okay. I move we change the number of town meeting members per precinct to 6.
6, is that seconded?
Second.
Seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor of changing the number of town meeting members per precinct to 6, please raise your hand. So I count 4. All opposed, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so it fails. Number of town meeting members will remain at 9 per precinct. The second item we were going to vote on again tonight is 3-1-1, which is the select board composition. The fact that there'd be 5 at-large members and 2 members of the select board elected on a regional basis, presumably each representing half the town. That has been moved for reconsideration. If somebody wants to make that motion and second it, we'll proceed to reconsider it. Anybody want to reconsider that?
But that was already voted. We are going to reconsider. Do we need to revote the
Well, let's
reconsideration?
reconsider. So you're moving to do what?
Well, quite frankly, I want it to stay at 5. I don't want to see 7, and if we do go to 7, I want them to be at large.
Okay, so
Make
you
a
want to
motion
keep
on one
Let's
of
break
those
it into
things.
2 votes then.
All right,
That would make sense.
I will move that we stay with 5 selectmen,
period.
period,
At
Second,
large.
at large.
is David Delagudi's motion seconded?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Betsy. Any discussion? Are we ready to vote on the motion?
Larry?
Larry's.
Larry?
Yeah, I'm quite supportive of Mr. Malagudi's idea of staying at 5, but I think we ought, before we think about the question of district election, we need to look at the precincts that we have. I think we imagine that there is some sort of possible construction of precincts that will represent 2 different concepts within the town of Plymouth. And I don't think that that's true. There are so many thin north-south precincts that the working group came versus south of the Pine Hills. I know that there was, Mr. Christopher came up with a east of Route 3 and west of Route 3, and I've never heard a distinction between East Plymouth and West Plymouth. So the problem that we have is not simply one of whether or not we should have districts, but whether they're possible under the present construction of precincts.
Well, we're talking about
That's the second
member
motion,
of town
Larry.
meeting.
Yeah.
Member.
Two
The
parts.
motion is just on
Over
five.
select board members. Larry, we're just gonna vote
Select-
right now on the motion, which is to keep the number of select board members at 5 at-large members. That's it.
Okay.
There'll be another motion presumably. Any further discussion on Mr. Malaguti's motion? So all in favor of keeping the number to 5 at-large select board members, raise your hand. So all opposed?
We lost Larry.
So that does not carry. Is there another motion? Betsy?
So do we need a motion to leave it at 7?
No,
No, because it's at 7,
It's
right?
7.
So we don't need a motion for that.
right.
So I move that all select board members be elected as at-large members.
Second.
So the motion is that all current, that all number of select board members that are currently provided in the charter be at large, and currently we have 7, so the effect of the motion would be that the 7 select board members would be at large members, right?
Right, and I would like to read my reasons if that's
So
possible.
that's been seconded. Okay, discussion on the motion, Betsy?
This is in your packet, but I want to read it into the record. Why I oppose electing any select board members as at-large members. Dividing the town into wards or districts hints at a town council form of government, as Mr. Peck said. I am strongly opposed to a town council form of government because it is the most autocratic form of local government in Massachusetts. There are very few checks and balances in a town council form of government. A town council form of government has inevitably and historically led to the destruction of protective zoning and has led to a great increase in development and sprawl with little attention paid to open space and water quality. 2, it is awkward and divisive to divide the town into 2 sections. 3, this provision may cause the defeat of our new charter, as it will be very controversial and will be opposed by residents who have been actively engaged in town politics for many years. 4, if any section of town feels underrepresented, that section of town can find and support a candidate for select board who will address its idea of its special needs. However, I have not heard from any resident that they believe the select board or any individual member favors one section of town. In the last 10 years, there have been 2 candidates, by the way, from South Plymouth, south of exit 3, now exit 7, I believe, who ran for select board, and the people of that section did not work hard to get those candidates elected. They weren't like, yes, this is our candidate. I think that people tend to think of all the select board as their members as their candidate. And finally, all select board members represent all of Plymouth and are elected to act in the best interests of all.
Okay, further discussion? Thank you. Bill?
So, we have talked about at great length about low turnout in town elections. I truly believe that to increase voter turnout, we need to develop purposes for people to vote. And if you give people another reason to go to the polls, you might get a higher turnout during town elections. They're super low. They're incredibly low. We need to increase voter participation. The town of Plymouth, when I was a kid, was 18,000 people. Now we're pushing well into 60,000 people. We have built communities the size of Avon at Exit 8. We got towns down there, places that are the size of a town now. There's 10,000, 15,000 people where there was 1,000 acres. So that being the case, we have a new population in Plymouth that are living somewhere looking for some representation. There is a need to identify the fact that the people living in southern Plymouth are nearly 20 miles from downtown Plymouth. That's like the distance from Kingston to Weymouth. The issues are growing in Plymouth. Plymouth, central Plymouth, northern Plymouth, they have their priorities. They're pretty traditional. They've been going on for decades. Then we have a new section of Plymouth that's growing out of the forest, and it has been built up, And we need to recognize the issues that are problematic in the ponds of Plymouth, head of the Bay Road, Long Pond Road, going into Cedarville. We need to give these people a purpose to go to the polls. It's some of the lowest turnout in Plymouth is in southern Plymouth. If people feel like they're being more enfranchised in the political process, that they have somebody that they can elect that can voice the concerns that are going on in their part of Plymouth, you might get them to the polls. They'll be voting for other offices too. So we're talking about trying to increase voter turnout by giving people some voice from a different part of Plymouth. Now, I've heard this over the years that North Plymouth, no one pays attention to us. Manomet, no one pays attention to us. Cedarville, no one's paying attention to us. I feel as if we have to modernize for the 21st century and give this growing population some voice in our government. Now, we have the majority of people at large, so the priority will always be Plymouth. But we are reaching out to a growing demographic throughout the town that isn't participating in town elections and giving them a purpose to vote, helping turn out vote, giving people more enfranchisement and more representation. I would prefer that. I'm not in favor of just going to seven more town meeting members across the town, because selectmen, because now you're going towards this council thing that you're concerned of. I like the 5 selectmen at large working together because it's an efficient group. David Malaguti has pointed this out as a selectman for many years, that the efficiency of the Board of Selectmen is how well they work together. At 5, I got a greater chance of that happening than at 7. I just wouldn't go to 7. I would leave that alone and just stay at the 5 for time. I know, but now we're moving somewhere that I'm not gonna support 7 selectmen at large across the town. I would support 5 at large and 2 representing a part of Plymouth that doesn't have a voice. And I don't think it's so disruptive to the political process that it would undermine this form of government if we gave people in parts of Plymouth that didn't exist 20 years ago some voice on what's going on in downtown Plymouth.
Mr. Chairman,
David.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but I can't let him go without a response. First of all, if I were elected from the northern districts of town, whichever way you divide them, whatever, I'm going to represent my area. And if I was elected from the southern part, I'm gonna respond to my southern concerns. That's ward politics. No matter how you look at it, that's ward politics. Now, you know, you have this grandiose theory that will give the people a reason to vote. If you have a rainy day in April, they're not gonna, May, I'm sorry, they're not gonna vote. And if you have a beautiful sunny day, they're gonna be working in the yards, okay? So this great theory about how you're gonna get all these people turning out, like I said, and I said it in jest, hire a food truck at every precinct and you might get the turnout to increase. But this business of giving people a rationale to vote because they're gonna feel greater representation, I think it's a serious mistake. When you're a selectman, you are a selectman for the whole town, and that's where your focus needs to be. And you need to balance your focus throughout the whole town so that you're perceived as being fair and equitable.
David, normally I would agree with you about the at-large factor, but this is not, it's barely ward politics by having 2 particular areas. You know,
It's a start.
there are people in town that talk about a council. You can have 9 members of a council. That is ward politics.
I would like
But
to
we know,
commend you on the word
we're talking
grandiose.
that there's a greater concern here, and that's representation of people in a town this large, 100 square miles, so far apart, just have a selectman. We're only talking about 2 additional selectmen. I don't think it's a big,
If you think
Give.
this is gonna cause people to turn out, you're sadly disillusioning yourselves.
and as far as, I just want to make one more point. Larry was concerned about how this is going to be drawn. We have a whole transition provision about how these districts are going to be devised and selected and everything. It's part of the transition because it's not going to be done overnight, obviously. It's going to have to be figured out how to do it. And that's what there's a whole section in our charter that says this will be done after the charter's been adopted. They'll come up with districts, sitting probably in this room to devise districts for those 2 select board seats. Betsy?
We can't say.
Has Wrestling had a chance to speak? I
Wrestling.
don't think so.
I think it's interesting what Bill Cohen was saying, because I think we do need to realize the demographics are gonna be changing. You know, we've got the Oasis coming in behind Home Depot with a huge number of people. And we've got the, you know, the Pine Hills for a long time said that they weren't represented. And you know, Exit 8, you know, the ponds, and there's a huge demographic that is going to be asking, how am I represented? And I go back and forth on this, but I do think that we need to realize the Plymouth of yesterday is gone, Plymouth of today is leaving, and we're gonna be in a different demographic. And you know, I just think that we really need to, you know, look at that, you know, and representation is huge. That, you know, the reason we're sitting in this room is because the people of Plymouth didn't feel that they were represented properly. So I think that it's worth the discussion. I'm you know, wavering on both sides of this, but.
Betsy,
So, from what I read in the newspaper, towns that have a town council, as well as a mayor with a city council, are having very low turnout. Even though those people represent just that section, there's still a very low turnout in all across Massachusetts, whether there's an open town meeting, or a town council, or a mayor, or a representative town meeting. Right now, all across the United States, I'm reading, that very few people are really wanting to be involved and vote, and there's a lot of, and I've been reading about voter apathy for a long, long time. Secondly, I really am concerned that we've done a lot of work, we've come up with a lot of great ideas, and if we go forward with this one idea of separating the town into districts and saying, we'll take care of that after you vote for the charter, it'll defeat the charter. That's my fear, is that we will not get this charter accepted on this one point. And I don't think it's worth it. I think that down the road, if at a new charter review or whatever, but we have so many new ideas, so many changes, that I think this might be the one that breaks the back of our charter, and I would hate to see that, because I think we worked really hard and come up with a lot of really good ideas.
Start again and have a mayor?
Revote on that.
Maybe the mayor.
okay, Larry Pizer, do you have a comment?
Yeah, Bill, you said that there would be a transition team that would be able to come up with this. I don't find it imaginable that the districts could be anything other than 9 precincts and 9 precincts. Under those circumstances, I'm trying to figure out where there is a coherent, this part of Plymouth versus that part of Plymouth. You're correct in saying that there will be some sort of line, but I don't think that this is going to be an identifiable group. The way the precincts ended up, I don't think it's doable.
3 is easier than 2.
It's all kicking the can down the street, so that it'll be done by a transition committee. But it will not end up being a coherent pair of sections of Plymouth.
So Bill,
Okay, Frank?
so I believe that long ago, I was the one that put forth this idea.
You were.
And my original idea was 4 and 3. I really felt that 3 was a way we could represent the sections of the town that exist now, essentially the south, the west, and the established communities to the north, including Manomet and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, essentially. And then it gets a little messy in the sense that we do have some squiggly drawn precincts. But I really felt that could offer for the south and the west is growing like mad with Red Brook and other areas in there. And there is a differentiation between, let's say, Cedarville and, I guess it's identified as Cedar, what's it identified, that area?
Cedar bushes,
Cedar bushes or whatever, that's an old term, whatever. So, but I felt that 3 was viable. It was a compromise vote that created 2. 2 is a more difficult division, a less clearly delineated division between areas and whether they feel represented or not. I know in my history in this town that the South is completely, well, they're not disenfranchised, but they might as well be.
I'm sorry.
I'm talking about Cedarville and the ponds and all the turnouts we get down there show that they don't think of themselves on a constant basis as part of the community as a whole. And I think really, have we ever done an evaluation of how we spend our money in town? Because I have to believe that we have not spent it in Cedarville, and we've kind of discounted a lot of those areas. I don't think they've gotten the attention they deserve. So that was the goal of what I wanted to do, is not create separateness, I don't think any select board member would go, I'm all about, this one project in Cedarville. They would have more insights, they would have more the ear of their people, but of course they are on a board representing the entire town, just the same way that our 18 precinct members at town meeting, they have to come up to a consensus for the entire town. So I guess what I'm saying is that what I would like to propose is we go 4 and 3, go back to 3. And if not, I think that I would err on the side of Betsy, because I am concerned that if this is not a saleable division, and people identify it as a positive, that I don't want to see all the good and hard work we've done go down over that one issue.
Bill?
So I was with you on the 3 and 4, but I was trying to accommodate other board members who were worried about too many people elected from different parts of Plymouth that would be preoccupied with that part of Plymouth. I wanted a super majority of select board members that were elected at large. So the priority would always be the town, and then give the north and the south, some added reasons for representation and purposes to vote. Now, 3 would work much better, because Larry does have a point. When you look at David's map, David has a map here, I think we all saw it. We can divide it 9 and 9, where there is a similarity between the areas, one being in the north and one being in the south. But obviously, 3 would be more efficient at that. But I was trying to accommodate this idea that I didn't want to enter into ward politics. But there is a feeling out there that people want a council, want a mayor. We're trying to fix this form of government for the future. But if we can't fix it, we'll be confronted by ward politics and by a mayor, council form of government in the near future if we can't get this form of government to work. So all I'm saying is that we should be very sensitive to the idea of trying to bring more people on in the political process, give them more representation. I'm not in favor of just having 7 more selectmen. That would not really solve the problem. I think that would cause more problems, because then we would not be addressing the issue at hand, and that is giving people in a far-off location in Plymouth. We are the biggest town in Plymouth area-wise. People literally have to drive 15 minutes to get to town hall. There are different issues in this part of Plymouth, and we should be sensitive to that. I'm for this idea of 2, but I could go with 3. But I don't like this idea of just arbitrarily going, let's increase the Board of Selectmen to 7.
Presley?
I think that's an important fact. I think the way we would divide this is a weak argument. The fact that it's difficult to divide the town, it's a weak argument. The argument should be, should we have selectmen from different zones? Because it's just because it's difficult doesn't mean it can't be done. But I think the argument is, should we have district selectmen? I'm wavering on this, because I do agree, I think anytime you bring in the word politics into our current form of government, word politics, there's gonna be politics. Any form of government has politics, has special interests. And, whether it's a council or it's a town meeting, there's politics, and there's, gonna be special interests on both sides that sway things. So I think that we really need to focus on whether there should be, district selectmen, and not say, well, how are we gonna do it?
Right, okay,
Because-
let's just maybe cut to the chase.
Yep.
And who made the motion for 7 selectmen?
Betsy said, well, we've already passed 7. Betsy said 7 at large. That was her motion.
No,
Yeah,
we said, no, we didn't pass 7, we just
Yes,
said
we
no
did.
to 5.
Yes, we did.
No,
we just- we just-
No, we
We
passed
passed
7
7.
last time.
Yeah.
Okay.
we have
7 has
We
been
just did it
passed.
again 2 minutes
I'd
ago.
like to put a
Right.
motion on the table,
15
to
minutes.
see how many votes it gets for
Yep.
4 at-large and 3 representative selectmen. So you'd cut the town into 3 parts, not 2. Because the 2 was kind of a Hobson
It's
sort of a
awkward.
compromise, and maybe, I'm getting the feeling that nobody really likes a compromise here. So does anybody want to speak to the 4 and the 3? We've already heard from Frank and Bill. Wrestling, you're,
It was Frank's original motion.
right.
You want to re-motion that, Frank?
Remotioned.
What's the motion now? On the-
Motion
To have
would be
4
to-
select board members at large and 3 select board members elected by areas.
And did somebody second that?
I will second Frank's motion.
And so we're
Wrestling-
voting on 4 and 3.
Right.
Yes.
3 will be at large.
Anybody want to talk
No,
on that?
4 will
motion?
be at large, 3 would be
Okay,
uh,
that's our first vote.
representative. And I'll just say, people saw it, 2 is very awkward, 3 divides relatively comfortably to, north, central, and
Right.
south,
Okay.
with having 6 precincts in each. Because
Right.
I'm a visual person, so I
Yep.
think that
Well,
works.
I think Frank and
far
Bill,
better.
they make compelling arguments for why 3 is not an unreasonable way of doing this.
We okay with that, Frank?
Any other discussion? Hearing none, are we ready for the vote? So all in favor of a select board composed of 4 at-large members and 3 regionally elected members will say, raise their hand, aye. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that right? All opposed? 3, so it looks like a 6-3 vote in favor
You,
of
Frank.
4 and 3. All right, the next item was the enforcement provision. The Collins Group did weigh in on the enforcement provision in their latest memo. And basically, it's the last item in their, next to last item in their memo number 12. And this is the way the language now reads in this draft charter tonight, if we accept it. And basically, they have, there's a 2-month period in which a complaint has to be filed, needs to be signed by the complainant, and then it goes to the town clerk, and they put in with copies to the town manager and the select board. The respondent then files a response. That then also goes to the select board and the town manager. So that's the process.
Page 6 and 7.
There is a provision that takes into account privacy and rights of, before something becomes a public record, if it's some of private nature, it would be protected. So I think, Pat, you did this. Do you want to make any comment on it? Yes, Pat?
I just wanted to say that, while I've included this language, I think the commission really has to talk about, do they want the complaint to go to the
Right.
town manager and the select board? This is assuming they do want it to go to the town manager and the select board, to indicate that it's protected.
Pat, the only comment I had,
I don't know whether you made that decision.
Pat, I had a comment. Why would you need to send the complaint to the select board and the town manager? Couldn't you wait until you get a response and then when it's over, then send the package to the select board and the town manager? You don't have to send it twice. It seemed to me that I didn't see a reason just to send the complaint up the ladder until there's been a response.
That's new, that's new, that wasn't in there before.
Right. So I don't know, that,
I don't remember where that, when that came in and when.
We voted to do number 3.
right.
So what page are you on and what
Oh,
line?
I'm sorry, I'm on the memo from, memo 12.
Page 7.
And it's also page 62 and 61 in the new charter. 61 and 62.
It's going to read the same as the memo, because that's where it came from.
Right, so, that step of sending it to the town manager and select board, I agree with Bill, under number 2, that just the written complaint,
Right.
it doesn't need to happen. I think we could strike that, and we decided already to leave it in at 3
Right, exactly.
already.
So, any discussion on that? Scott?
I see this whole section as problematic. I mean, basically what it's gonna come down to is just people writing letters about why they don't like each other. And there's nowhere in here is there any, anybody who actually determines whether or not these things have merit. So if I don't like something that Dave, he does, then I write a letter and says, I think you violated the charter, and he writes a letter back, it says, I don't think I violated the charter, I think you violated the charter. And it just goes in this big circle of nonsense.
Yeah, but Scott, right now, there's nothing in the charter about enforcement. There's nothing. But this,
Yeah, but this could be misused,
Not
and it just becomes dueling letters of why we don't like each other.
not necessarily, but Bill, go ahead.
I think, well, one other thing is, this whole idea of enforcement, but it really starts with the individual. When the voting opportunity arises, they're a town meeting member, they're a board member, they're confronted by something. You're gonna look in the mirror and say, can I vote on this? And you start to think, what are the repercussions of me voting on this? I mean, it might be an incentivization for the person trying to determine whether or not they're gonna vote, that, well, if I do vote and I shouldn't vote, someone's gonna call me on it, and now I'm into something where I have to respond to it, and it's been publicly documented and noted that I did something that might not have been something I should have done. So, obviously, right now, it's self-enforcement. You get up in the morning, you look in the mirror, and you say to yourself, am I gonna vote on this or not? And it's self-enforcement. But if there was some limited acknowledgement that says to the person in the back of their mind, hang on a second, if I vote for this, someone could call me on it, and it's going to the clerk's office, and I got that there, that I'm gonna have to deal with. Maybe I should really listen to my conscience and not vote on this, because there is a conflict.
Okay, Wrestling.
I talked about this last time we talked about it. I'd like to see there be an opening paragraph that puts it on the individual, saying, every individual involved in governmental body, I guess, should, with all due respect, go by the charter or adhere to the charter, and do their best to not go against the charter. I'm fumbling with the wording, but I think if there was something in the beginning that says, look, you should respect the charter, you should go by the charter,
Like
you
that.
should adhere to the charter, and then, I'm a little bit with Scott here. I think this is, not enforcement. This is, someone has to say,
let's just-
I've got a problem. I'm going to say this.
Review the history here, because we had no enforcement, right?
Right.
We asked the Collins team, are any charters in the state have enforcement provisions? They had trouble, but they looked around. We also examined a number of charters, and there weren't many, but there were some that did address enforcement. And there was a range from some that were ridiculously strict with fines. Remember, Provincetown went several pages. It was an unbelievable procedure. And then there was others that were so soft, you wouldn't even know it had happened. This was kind of right in the middle, and it was taken from Falmouth, which has it in their charter. And basically, the idea was just expose the violation, make it public, there's a violation, there's a complaint, a response, and that's it. But there's no fines involved.
Yeah.
But it may be something that would be recognized at the next election.
I'd like to see an
So-and-so
opening
has violated the
paragraph
charter.
I like
that
The
talks
opening
about.
paragraph, Presley, makes sense, I like that. Betsy?
Many of the charter problems might come from something pretty simple, like it was supposed to be done in 30 days and it was done in 40 days. Or it might be something, it might actually be that section where a select board member does give a direct order to an employee. And to have that pointed out and addressed is not people just sending letters back and forth. I mean, I think most of our officials, we can trust them to be more dignified than that. So I think that pointing out to somebody that may not even realize, oh, I lost track of that 30 days,
Yeah.
whatever it is. I think that's valuable, and it ends. It's not a back and forth, and it's not a, I hate you. It's a, hey, did you know you violated the charter? Or, I think that it should be brought to the attention of, your attention, that we have a charter that says you can't do that, or whatever it is. So I think it's a beginning, and it's something that doesn't need to be abused or wouldn't be abused. It could just be simply information.
So is part of this coming back to discussion a little bit ago, that the word violated is strong and kind of has a negative connotation, but someone said adhered to, or, just to.
Failed to adhere to,
Failed to, so then it's not
right, instead
as
of violation.
punitive, violated sounds,
Question of adherence.
yeah.
Yeah,
I just think without
Question
some,
of
without
adherence.
some
Failed to
method of
adhere to.
adjudication or due process,
Question
I
of
just think
adherence
it's more problems than it's worth.
would be better than, the
So-
word of questioning, the questioning of the adherence might be a better way of saying it rather than violation, because we haven't made that determination. Scott's right, we don't want a lot of frivolous
Right, yeah.
people, like, just throwing things over the fence to mark up your good standing in the town. We don't want it to become frivolous.
Bill, what would the wording be that you're suggesting?
What did I just say? I just
Adherence, just use,
So
I
I
said
said the
some
word adherence. to
question
the-
of adherence.
Yeah.
Uh,
Question
What
of
do you mean
adherence
question?
to the charter.
Question of adherence. So
Or
you put it as a
add-
question of adherence, and that's what it's delivered. There's a
Or-
question
or-
out there about adherence.
Or just adhered to
Yeah.
any provision of the charter.
Yeah.
You need the
Has
word
failed
question.
to adhere.
I don't want it to
Right.
say the
Has
way
failed
it
to
fa-
adhere.
I didn't want to say failed or violation, Betsy, because I felt like I was already
Oh,
creating
yeah,
a
yes,
bad
you're
thing.
right, yeah.
You know what I mean? I want that,
Right.
so that's why I was like, there's a question of adherence.
Yeah, but that implies that something ambiguous, and you say, well, okay, you may raise a question.
I don't know, I just,
It
The
says
answer is I
any
didn't.
person who has a reason to
It's gonna say
believe
something about you did not adhere.
that a town official or government body has failed to, or
Do
has
it.
not, let's not use the word failed, has not adhered, just about has not
Okay.
adhered
Okay,
Okay.
not
Not
adhered
adhere.
to.
to
All right.
any.
Comply, there you
Oh,
go.
there you go.
Yes.
There's the
Lawyer comes up on that one.
Has not complied with, is that what
Yes.
you want? Has not complied with?
Okay, I like it.
I like, has not complied with.
But I don't,
What about my original paragraph?
Yes, I'm working
Yes.
on that right now.
Awesome.
because we don't want to, I don't want to, just
Yeah.
putting this on the table in a negative connotation, you've already done the damage that we don't want to see. I mean, someone might be wrong in their questioning of the other person. So I don't want to have any negative connotation. You can question, but it can't come with any negative connotation, because the person has the right to defend themselves.
Right. And I do think this is a first step.
You can say it appears that you have not complied. with.
Yeah.
You guys figure out the word. I just don't want to have a word that says
Okay, so-
violate or
Yeah.
failed.
Yeah,
I like that, I
yeah,
agree with you,
yeah,
yeah,
I don't,
agree with you.
those
So
are too
basically, there are
strong.
two changes we're gonna make to the
Judgmental.
language. We're gonna use the word complied with
Right,
instead of violated. And we'll have an opening exhortatory paragraph on how it-
Yep.
they're
So-
expected to follow the charter.
so this is just a start, okay? All town employees and appointed and elected officials are encouraged and obligated to carry out the provisions of this charter.
I thought we were going to leave out town employee.
This is
Don't
the
they have to-
paragraph, not the,
This is the introduction, the introductory
it's-
paragraph,
It's the preamble to this,
the preamble to
preamble.
this section.
to section
Didn't we,
5.
didn't we decide that we were going to eliminate that?
Oh,
Language?
It's the very beginning of the
Okay,
enforcement.
all right.
this
Yeah.
is, this is
Brand
my paragraph.
This is new, a new
It's a
sentence.
new section, I mean, it would be A of, under
Right.
enforceability
The first
of
thing,
this
the
charter.
first thing of the
It
section.
would be the introduction to enforceability
Right,
of
so
the
Michelle
charter.
is, we're making two changes. One is this introductory paragraph, that Betsy, the other one is using the words not complied with.
Got it.
Got it? Okay.
So, this is just quick wording, all town employees, as well as appointed and elected officials,
We'll just say
are
and.
encouraged and obligated to carry out the provisions of
Yeah,
this charter?
we'll edit it
Something
slightly,
like
so
that?
that's good. Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
With respect to the charter should,
So all in favor of this enforcement provision as modified based on our discussion? Yes? Okay, looks like,
Okay.
What
So
do
we're
we
gonna
actually-
look on the final language on this.
yeah, we're gonna see the final language.
Okay.
Right, and the only thing we really changed is not complied with, right? And we took out, going to the town, to the select board and
Okay, let's discuss this for a minute. We're gonna have to make
took those out.
decisions, group. We can't simply keep saying we're gonna look at the language and approve it. Because Wednesday or Thursday this week, we deliver to the OCM. That's
Right.
it, it's done.
Okay.
So when do you think you're gonna review this language? Tomorrow morning?
Number 2, we took out, all agreed already on number 2, to take out the town clerk shall forward the copy to the town
I'm just
manager.
suggesting it's gonna be a lot easier right here and now tonight at this table to agree on this language.
Okay.
Because once we start sending emails around tomorrow and the next day, and then Wednesday, we have to get it to the Old
All
County
right, so
Board.
why don't we read what we've got?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
do it.
Okay.
Well, except for the introduction, we're done,
Read it.
Okay?
right?
Yeah, let's read it.
What I wrote, and I'm not loving it, but it's a beginning. All town employees, as well as
I
appointed.
don't think you used the word as well as. It should
Okay,
just say
and
public-
appointed and elected officials
Right.
are encouraged and obligated to, or just are obligated to carry out the provisions of this charter. So there's another way to say it, but that's a beginning.
That's good, straightforward. Yeah.
If there's another way to say it, we gotta say it. What's the other way to say it?
I just wonder if you want to take out the word all employees and put in all people involved with the governance of the town of Plymouth?
I think it's consistent with the earlier vote we took with.
Okay.
What about provisions? Is there a better word for that? Carry out the
Charter.
charter? Carry out the charter, well, that's not gonna work.
Maybe you should say all persons subject to this charter?
Yes.
I don't think you'd wanna use the word
Okay.
employees.
All
Yeah.
persons subject to this charter are obligated
My favorite club.
to comply with
Mm.
all sections of this charter.
You just put the charter.
Sections of the charter is all right.
Frank, you drafting?
Oh, no, I'm just copying what's being said.
All persons subject to this charter
Should respect,
must comply with all sections of the charter.
should respect
I like
and
the word
comply
should
with,
respect.
Must
should respect and comply with.
Right.
must respect and comply with
There you go.
all sections of this
All
charter.
provisions of this
All
charter.
provisions of this charter.
I like that. Frank?
Yeah, and then the rest just follows, and then, so the rest just assumes that if there's a problem, this is the procedure to follow.
So the only other changes we made were we took out section 2, forwarding it to the
Select board, town
select board and
manager.
town manager, and we changed the words has violated to not complied with. Those are the two
Yes,
changes
good.
we've made,
Yeah, we gotta get rid of,
besides the introduction.
yeah, because we had violated earlier and then violation,
Yes.
so,
Okay, we got it, I think, there's just 3 changes from what we currently have. One is the introduction, not complied with instead of violate.
Oh, wait a minute, number 1, David is right, it says specify the date and time of the alleged violation. What other
Right.
word? Alleged non-compliance.
Non-compliance. That's good.
Okay, got it.
Okay, and so we're gonna put non-compliance in number 2 as well,
Any place
Yeah.
violation occurred.
any place, okay.
Michelle, you got none of it?
We got it. Okay,
Yeah.
it being 8:30, we're ready to take public comment. Pat?
Oh, you don't move
It
it.
stays there.
Okay,
Just talk into it.
I'll talk into
Share
it.
Works.
okay. I did email you guys around today through Michelle, and I'm gonna reiterate what I emailed and spoke about 2 weeks ago, just to clarify the date problems that I see in the community, COPC, and the finance committee appointments due on June 30th.
So Pat, you gave us this already once before, right?
I did.
And we all
But
have it in our packet.
You do, but you haven't spoken to it, so.
No, but
I'm
we've
just
already made
gonna, I emailed you today again, just so you would have a discussion about it, because you haven't discussed it, so that's why I had to do
Actually,
it again.
Excuse me, Pat, just to be clear what's happened, you gave it to us 3 weeks ago, I think.
2 weeks ago.
We did discuss it, we did make a change.
You
in
made
it,
one change, but you
which
didn't,
We felt addressed that issue.
That's what
But you
I'm,
can now comment and say why that doesn't address the issue.
it doesn't. That's what
Okay,
I'm going
go
to
ahead.
explain to you. Because in the new charter, the COPC is going to be in charge of finance committee appointments, 10 of which they will be in charge of. And those are due June 30th, because that's the date of the turnover and the terms of people serving on the finance committee. So, this is what I said, and I wrote to you today, but I'm going to speak to the public about it. In 2-6-1, the charter calls for the caucuses to meet within 20 days of the election to choose their officers. In 2-6-4, the charter calls for the COPC to meet within 14 days of the election to reorganize. How can that happen when the caucuses have up to 20 days to reorganize? This is inconsistent. How will the well, and then it goes on from there. You do not have precinct chairs as of the day after the election because they have to meet to reorganize. And they need to reorganize before you have them, because there are no precinct chairs to hold a meeting to do your other, to choose their
Basically,
officers.
Pat, the previous change you wanted was because the COPC itself was not organized in time to deal with the finance committee appointments. That was a previous comment.
Right, but it
And now you
didn't.
made a second comment.
No, I did it both ways on my first comments 2 weeks
We
ago,
understand
sorry.
that, but the town meeting members is a different issue and it has to be addressed. We totally agree.
No, this is the precinct chairs. Town meeting members,
No, the caucus, the town meeting members need to pick their precinct chair. In
after
order-
they're elected,
Right,
right,
exactly.
and they have to do
He's
that.
agreeing with you.
I'm agreeing with you that we have a glitch in the number of days
Okay.
here, and we have to fix it.
Okay, okay, that's what I was worried about, because you still had the days reversed, and June 30th is when this new entity
Right.
has to recommend finance committee, has to
Right.
appoint finance committee
So,
members.
so the thing we need to deal with right now is that an individual precinct has 20 days to pick their captain, their leader. And then,
Precinct chair.
but the precinct chairs has to be organized within 14 days. We have that discrepancy.
Correct.
That's what we
So
have to deal with.
that brings you to the middle of June, and you need to have that new entity how are they gonna find people to appoint by June 30th to the finance committee? That's the
Okay,
question.
So there's the issue. There are various ways of handling it. Betsy, go ahead.
I move that we switch the numbers from 14 in 6-1, go to within 14 days of 6-1, and within 20 days would be 2-6-4. So just change the numbers. We've got 14 on the
Switch 'em, you mean?
2-6-4. Yeah, switch the numbers.
Switch the
So it'd be
COPC.
14
and
days
Yep.
for people to meet and pick their chair, and then
Precincts. Yep.
for the precinct caucuses to pick their chair, and then 20 days to organize as a committee of precinct chairs.
So
Would
what
that-
date
Does that
is-
work?
I don't know
Can I
what-
have a follow-up question?
Sure, I mean, I'm saying,
I
does that-
just, no,
I
I
think I
just,
know the follow-up question, but
is
go ahead.
how then, on June 20th, when they reorganize, where are they gonna find, where are you gonna
So-
find, where are they gonna find 10
Yeah,
people,
okay.
or, on a rotating basis,
All right,
to
so what we would
appoint?
do, what we would
That's
do
all.
is that while these committees are organizing, there's no reason why people who have an interest, who've been elected to town meeting, who have an interest in serving on FinCom, can supply a letter, a resume of interest to the committee of precinct chairs. When they reorganize, they're ready to hit the ground running.
Right.
So there's a way of dealing with that issue that you just brought up, because I've been thinking about it too,
Right.
to make sure after first we gotta reorganize precincts,
Yep.
then the precinct chairs, and then they gotta appoint. But while that's all happening, people, once they get elected, can submit a letter of interest to serve in this capacity. So when the board, when the COPC does assemble, the resumes are there to start to look at.
Pat, yes?
Okay, and how are the people out there gonna know, and who do they send their resumes to when there's no precinct chairs?
No, but there is precinct chairs.
The committee doesn't dissolve, it still exists.
Yeah,
The
the
letters will
precinct
wait
chairs
for
are
their
still there.
yeah, they're there, their work will
But-
be there when they get.
It's just how they did it.
The
with
I'm just,
new precincts.
I'm
Yeah,
concerned about the mechanics,
Right.
because you have the moderator doing
Right.
5, and the community precinct chairs, the new ones,
Yep.
appoint, but who are they gonna have to appoint, and then where do they save the resumes for when people quit?
So
I'm
the
real
pretty,
con-
the pretty,
Let's-
the
let's
committee
put
of
it in
precinct
that bill.
chairs, yes, the committee of precinct chairs does not go away.
I know
This-
that, Bill.
got-
I was a precinct chair for 5 or 6
Okay,
years.
all right,
Bill
hang
make
on,
his
hang on,
point. Go ahead.
let's just see if we can keep on the page here. I'm trying to solve your problem.
I'm trying to solve yours.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
All right.
Thank you, Pat, thank you very much.
I'll end this discussion for now. Thank you, Pat, I appreciate that.
Betsy,
Yes, Pat, I really appreciate
got a
you
good laugh.
bringing this to our attention, because it's important. What date, Larry Pizer might know, what's the date of this year, 2023's election? It's like May, is it May 8th?
Well,
or
last year was like, it's the
have to
third
know.
Saturday in
Because-
May.
First Saturday, in May,
Third.
okay.
Third.
Oh, it's the
Third
third
Saturday
Saturday
Yeah,
in
it
May.
is.
Changed it
So
last
it-
charter.
Okay, so it's
10 years
now
ago.
like May 21st, say, for example.
Right, for
So
example.
20 days is like May 15th, or something like that. So you're right, it doesn't give a lot of time.
Well, that's what I'm concerned about,
That's
because
right.
you
To say that
already
I've been
gave a big,
interrupted several times,
you're
so.
giving a lot of duties to this group, and they're not used to doing a lot of duties. So I'm telling you that it's very confusing, because then who out there, the town moderator forever has been the one, who goes and posts it in the newspaper? Who's gonna go out and recruit? Who's gonna collect the resumes? The practicalities.
I
I'm into
agree. Yeah, I agree,
practicalities.
the practicalities are very important.
And
Okay.
June 30th is when you have
Pat,
to
thank you
appoint.
very much. We
Thank you.
understand the problem, and we will deal with it. Bill, did you want to say anything further?
No, I think
But we've-
the problem can be solved.
Yeah.
But I don't
So
think
right
it's.
now, we've agreed to change the 20 and the 14.
Correct.
So that's been decided. But the date for appointing the FinCom is something that was brought up. Does that need to stay where it is, or could that go a little further along? That's my next question.
Well,
I
I think
would
that, I
think
think
it
to solve the problem, we'd have to address that when the election takes place and you're elected to town meeting, if you have an interest in serving on the FinCom, you have now all of April and all of May. So when the June appointments come and that committee is assembled to look at resumes, you've
Okay.
already applied.
All right.
So that can protect the
I see.
concern about
We
not
don't need to worry
having.
about the date for FinCom appointments, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, that's all the only question I have.
It's their first
Okay.
order of duty when they
Okay.
reassemble.
All right.
So is there any,
Public comment?
there's one other item.
Any other public comment?
Yeah, any other public
Anyone
comment?
else want to make a public comment?
I don't know, is there any other public
Yeah.
comment? Public comment?
Jenny?
Yes,
Guess I
hi,
just talk into this?
sure.
Yes.
Hi, Ginny Davis, Precinct 4. When you were talking about needing 7, you've already voted 7 select board. But you were trying to address apathy in some of the precincts. I think the way that we reach it, because when you're helping anyone with a campaign, you realize where people get excited and people don't. And really, it comes down to each one, as town meeting members, if you live in a really quiet one where people don't vote, then you get your town meeting people to go knock on doors, talk to people, have a coffee. I think in some of these precincts, people are young, they're working. I can remember when I was working and had kids, and unless somebody kind of said, hey, are you paying attention to this? I was just off doing my thing. So I don't know, I don't really like the at-large, I've already voted on it, but I think that as town meeting members, we really could carry more responsibility and reach out to the people in our community if we have really apathetic voting. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so any other public comment? Michelle, is there anybody on Zoom?
Hold on. No hands raised.
No? Okay, we're proceeding beyond public comment. Just one more, just point out
Scott's got
that,
his hand up. Scott, did you have your
I
hand up?
had a question.
pardon me?
Scott has his hand up.
Scott, I didn't hear you.
I
Is
have
your hand up?
I have a question.
Yes.
Didn't we have, whether we were gonna reconsider the conflict of interest? Wasn't that brought up at
No.
the last meeting?
No, was
Okay,
not.
I thought it was.
we had a roll call vote and it was done. The Collins number 12 memo has the communications and engagement language in there for our chapter 7. And that is now in the charter as chapter 7, it's one page. And there's the last item in their memo was the transitional chapter language. which is at the very end of the charter, and it talks about devising the districts for the select board race. And there's a couple of other items in the charter.
What page are we on now?
So this is at the very end of it.
End of what? What page are we on?
Memo?
Are we in
Charter.
Collins? Is that where we are?
It's the end of both the Collins memo and the charter.
Oh,
Okay.
Page 63 is the transition provisions. In tonight's draft. And the enforceability was on 61. I do have one question, though, for you, for the commission, and that had to do with the appointment of the Charter Review Committee. In reading this over this weekend, it provides that the members of the Charter Review Committee are all appointed by the Committee of Precinct Chairs. Was that the commission's vote? It used to be done by a three-part committee: moderator, select board, and precinct chairs.
Where are we again? On
Page
the-
63.
Page 62, 63. I thought it was mixed.
I
too.
thought it was mixed too.
Yeah.
I didn't
I
think we
did too.
changed
That's why I
that.
saw it. I just said, how did this get changed?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty sure we mixed it.
District Implementation Committee we're
No,
talking
they were
about?
talking
That's
about-
Yeah, no, this is the,
Charter Review Committee.
Charter
at
Review
least
Committee.
once every 5 years.
Yeah, we have that, we did change
So
that.
is
We
it the
didn't change
agreement
it.
that we keep it as it was, which was a
Yes.
three-member committee that
Yeah.
the three-member group that forms the charter, picks
Correct.
the members of the Charter Review Committee?
And what's that three-member group?
It's moderator, chair of the precinct chairs,
Select board.
and
Chair.
select board.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm cool with
Yeah.
that.
So we'll go back to the way it was before.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was right. Okay.
Yeah. Good catch.
David,
Mr. Chair, I noticed in the warrant that we're going to be looking
Yes.
at this fall about changing the election, town election
you know, I
to
saw that too,
November.
and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I know, I said, that's
there any-
great. I mean, that's, I've been working
we
for that
couldn't do
for
that.
5 years.
Was there any discussion at the select board meeting? I don't think I missed a meeting. Was it an
And,
agenda item?
and I'm just wondering if our group is supportive of that, which means we'd need to change the paragraph in here.
A lot of things.
So,
Larry,
Yeah,
can someone speak to, because Larry was telling us, Larry Piser's here.
can't happen.
Maybe Larry keeps telling us that that can't happen. They- A town,
Which I was told also.
yeah, Larry, did you see the selectmen's article for fall
21.
town meeting?
Article
Article 21.
21.
It calls for the election, future town elections in November,
A very
which,
odd-numbered year.
of odd number years.
That, it can be done in odd number of years, but that means that elections for the town would be every other year, quite a change.
So that obviously makes,
Maybe the at-large members could be able to.
Who had that idea?
No, it's all,
you know,
but you're right, that would resonate.
so many things.
Yeah. But I was wondering if we do this and then this passes,
I
that
think-
throws a monkey wrench into
First of all, let me
things.
just say, I heard absolutely no discussion at the select board, any meeting in public about this provision and how it got into the warrant. Did anybody hear of this before it appeared in the warrant?
They're starting tomorrow night, the warrant articles, on the select board.
No, but the warrant was put together and distributed way before tomorrow night.
It did
But
not
there's-
come,
but
it did not come
How did
before
it get in
precinct
there?
chairs.
You know, it says select board on it.
Yeah, no, but precinct chairs hadn't heard anything
So it
about
seems to me, we've gone down this road so far, this article going into the warrant, which would mean we'd be having our elections when the cities are having their elections. So Plymouth would be along with New Bedford and Fall River and Brockton. You know, I just don't think that's the company that I want to keep. I'd rather have our elections back in the spring where they belong, in May, and not in November. That's it.
So back to the charter, on Collins, page 9, and I'm not sure, oh, and on page 64, in the actual charter, it says 2 district select board members, so we need to change that to 3.
We're talking about this other thing.
I know, but I just want to finish up on the charter, because I don't think the other thing,
No, we're not
when we
finished
vote,
on the
has anything to do
charter.
with the charter. So I think we have to make that change.
So wait, let's just get beyond this point about the elections in November, then we'll return to the charter.
I
this-
think we should stay the course that we're staying.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because there are too many crazy things to contend with
Absolutely.
elections every 2 years.
Yeah.
Totally agree, David.
Let's just stay with the course that we're
I
on.
think we need to, I would love to see that provision at town meeting go down.
Yeah, I don't know how that article's gonna pass at town meeting where you're saying that you're gonna now have, every other year, you're gonna have a town election. So that would really slow the process of transitioning from one political ideology to another. The people would not be, people would only be heard from every 2 years.
I think,
I got it from my precinct at Claremont and Ari, and I just,
no, I got it
I read it,
online,
and I
it's
said, "Whoa."
posted, and as soon as I saw it, it looked to me like an obvious attempt to torpedo the charter.
Yeah, no, where's it on the town
it
clerk?
should
I
be,
can't find it on the.
I got it on an email, but,
The
okay.
warrant is on the
Would
town
you forward the
website.
email
Yeah.
to me, please? Thank you.
Okay, David, thank you for bringing that to our attention.
As I say, when I saw it, my head spun.
No, I did too, okay. So let's finish up the charter, folks, so that we can get it approved for the full colony. Let's go back to the select board composition. Betsy, you got a point?
Under
Page.
District Implementation Committee,
Chip Page.
it's in Collins on page 9, it's in the charter on page 64, draft of the charter. It says 2 representatives of
change
each, we
that.
need to change it to 3. That's just a
Yeah.
small change, I just thought I'd point that out. Anywhere where it says 2 districts, it should
Right.
say 3 districts.
We have to change the provision to
That's
make it work for 3 regionally elected.
It's in the Collins.
No, I want the line in the
Okay, the line is.
So, excuse me, Pat,
Collins.
looking up at Collins,
1444.
is it Libby or Pat who wants to speak?
Libby.
Libby,
Yeah, I have my hand raised. If we're looking at grammatical changes that need to be made to be consistent, just wanted to flag an issue that I think you might want to address. The language that talks about dividing the precinct equally, I think you might want to consider hedging that a little bit and just saying as equal as possible. Or some more flexible language, because you're really not going to be able to make a completely equal division, especially if you're doing 3, right? So we might want to touch that a little bit.
It's 962 at the bottom of page
Right.
64.
can I ask you,
Michelle wanted to know that.
Libby, can I ask you and the Collins group to revisit the select board language, composition language, and how it's gonna get done? Taking into account, we now have 3
Yeah, so
regional,
it occurs in multiple spots.
because we need to make changes in this draft before it goes forward. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Betsy, that'll help us make the changes that you're
Okay.
talking about.
Yeah,
Occurs in.
yeah, a lot of
So
places.
let's see what else is open.
Did we agree with
Yeah, where is that, what page is that, what line number?
64, line
It's-
number
It sounds
the
like an easy,
transition. Frank.
it
1451?
sounds like an easy fix.
64, 1451. So did we agree to change it from equally to somewhat equally or whatever?
Yep, she's gonna give us some new wording.
Okay, but.
As equally as
Right now?
possible.
Yeah, but, which is fine, but because
think we
18
can
is
agree.
divisible by 3, so you're basically
Right.
6.
We did touch on this a
Yeah.
few meetings
I
ago.
think we can agree right
Yeah.
now.
We did touch on this a couple of weeks ago. We referenced the idea that the only time the precincts are gonna change is through our census every 10 years. And when we do have,
No, but, I'm sorry.
so dividing right now, 3 divides into nice to 18.
Yeah.
We know that.
But taking
But
that equally
in
out.
10 years from now, you're gonna have a new census, you'll have a new precincts. And we were saying, someone came up with the idea with, when we grow, we should grow 2 at a time precincts, so that we would stay
We
odd.
need to change that now.
Okay.
It has to be divisible by 3
Right.
if you're gonna try to keep it
Okay.
completely equal.
Okay.
But
So,
Pat's
but
recommendation, I
that
think
can
we can
be-
agree on right now.
Yeah, Libby suggests
Get rid of
either
it.
modifying equally on 1451 the line, let's just take out equally. So it says, create a proposal dividing the existing precincts into 3 districts. with
There you go.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Just
like
Just take
that.
equally.
Take equally, let's
I
not
like
fudge
that,
that,
yeah.
because you could be held to, if somebody could say, well, it's not exactly the same
Yeah.
amount in each
Right.
precinct.
Got it.
Yeah.
You don't want it
Thank
to be a
you.
point
Yep.
of contention.
I like that.
Thank you.
Done.
Okay, done.
Did Michelle, did you get that?
Let's get back into it.
Okay, that's in the transition section. Anything else? What else is open?
Mr.
Yeah, David.
Several meetings ago, I suggested putting in transition to studying within the first year or 2 years after the new charter, the consolidation of town facilities and school
Yes,
facilities.
right.
Which is what I saw in Watertown, and I think I saw in
Yes.
another one, as a study.
Right. I thought we actually had agreed to do that.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I didn't see it in there.
Yeah, addressing this to Collins on transition, we were gonna have in the consolidation of schools and town facilities, repair and maintenance facilities.
It was an item to study.
It was actually in an earlier draft of transition, but somehow it got dropped from this one.
He
Okay,
says he thinks it's in the
I
We
think,
can
we're-
update that, we can get that.
right.
Wednesday.
So just going back for a minute, did we agree on that final language on the select board? The stuff we talked about at the beginning of this meeting.
Like
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, we did.
We're good.
Very good.
Please don't go back there.
Michelle, you okay with that?
On which one?
Which one?
3-6-2. The language about furthermore and so forth.
It's all voted.
Yeah, we voted that.
Well,
I should see if Michelle.
What is Michelle, do you have any questions, Michelle?
yes.
Okay.
Well, Mike said just to drop the last sentence, the furthermore sentence, is that? was it
Mike?
there? 362?
You
Look at it.
Okay,
So I couldn't quite hear that.
Michelle had a question.
What number was it?
3-6-2.
That's the
No,
Department
that's
of
not
Public
it.
Works.
That's public
It's the
works.
Department of Public Works.
326, excuse me.
326, okay.
326, I have a lot of things with
So let's just get that wording straight.
it. So, I think we were gonna use exactly the way it's written in the charter right now, and include the furthermore sentence, the last sentence. The select board shall be responsible through the town manager for the efficient and orderly operation of all agencies of the town, except those under the direction of another elected town agency. Furthermore, neither the select board nor its individual members shall give orders to any such employee who is under the direction and supervision of the town manager.
Right.
Correct.
That's what we said.
Yep.
You're all set, okay. Good, thank you. So let's see, looking back at what we've done here, we've the town meeting members, select board composition, and looking up at Collins, you're gonna help us with that, changing the 2 to 3 for the select board members running regionally. Just because that language, Michelle, is changing slightly, they're gonna revise it.
There's a lot of changes.
In the regional?
You know, the fact that we're gonna have 4 large and 3,
Oh, they're
Throughout-
gonna rewrite.
throughout
some
the
text.
whole
They're
Yes.
gonna-
Yeah,
give
there's
us
a
the
lot of
wording.
changes.
and we finished with enforcement. We're happy with that one.
We have an opening paragraph that Betsy wrote,
Yeah.
yes. That said,
Right, we've got an opening paragraph.
all persons subject to this charter must respect and comply with all provisions of this charter.
Right. Okay, and it's just gonna be sent at the end of the process to the select board and the town manager.
And,
Yes.
Yes.
okay, so in A2, we struck the sentence, the town clerk shall forward a copy of the written complaint to the town manager and the select board to the extent permissible under the state and federal law, including the public records law.
Right.
Striking all that.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
then on B1, you've changed everywhere I see violation or complaint, I'm changing it to non-compliance.
right.
Not complaint.
She said not.
Not changing
Non-compliance.
complaint.
Well, what about number 2? It says if the complaint. You don't want to say if the not.
No, we're still calling it a
complaint is
complaint.
We're still
Oh,
calling it a
okay,
complaint. yeah.
okay.
It's just for softening.
Okay, Larry, I see your hands up.
Yeah, the
Sitting up.
question that we haven't addressed at this point is the election schedule for the select board. Are we going to have, for example, if there are 3-year terms, the district people running, in 1 year, and two in the next 2 years for the at-large. I mean, that's something we're gonna have to address.
Okay. Any suggestions?
Yeah, leave it for a transition period, because you can't work this out this quick.
Yeah, I thought that was part of the
Yeah, I think it
transition.
could go into the transition.
That would be,
Larry, can we put that over in transition? I suppose. I mean, you know, it'll get done.
Libby has a question.
Pat.
Pat.
Okay,
It was
Collins,
actually Pat.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was going to suggest that be explored, in great detail during in the transition language. I think I mentioned in the memo that the transition section of the charter, is expected to change even after publication and through the Attorney General, period.
right.
And that you'll really need to sit down at some point with a calendar and make sure that the transition is taking into account all the dates of elections, et cetera.
Okay. So Libby, for this draft that's going into the paper, what will you be able to help us say as to the select board? You're gonna make the language change between the, so it deals with 4 and 3, right? And then the mechanics are gonna be in a transition.
We can definitely help you change it from the 4 to 3, and some of the matters, we can just indicate language that additional procedural, transitional language is in development.
Right. Okay, sounds good. So I think we're to the point, does anybody have any other issues or questions on the charter? Because we do need to submit it for publication in a few days. If there are no more questions, then I need a motion to approve the charter for OCM publication.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, David.
although I am in disagreement with some sections, I will move it for publication because the process needs to go forward.
Second.
Yes,
Can I ask one question? With the COPC reorg after the election and switching the 20 days to 14 days, this charter becomes effective on July 1.
no, we're gonna discuss when the effective date is.
Okay,
Collins, you had some
in the charter
thoughts?
right now, it's July 1st.
Yeah, no, maybe, do you wanna speak a minute about the effective date of a new charter?
Michael?
I'm sorry, but I could not give a comment before, but I heard your question. And I think the effective date is in the transition. Parts of the charter will go into effect immediately, but obviously, other parts that deal with the elections and the assembly of different committees that are new under the charter are going to start once you go through that process. And you'll also have to decide whether the current committees, et cetera, consider to go through their, the rest of their assigned time period, or whether you're gonna start it all over after the charter's in effect. In general, I put July 1st down, for some of these things to at least be read and gone through, the ones that don't involve elections. But, you know, the transition section will be something that's kind of a work in progress.
Okay.
Did you have another effective date in mind?
No. Did not. So Michelle, I think you just make those two changes on the days for the caucus of precincts to organize, and then for the precinct chairs to organize. Remember, we just reversed those dates.
Right.
Pat, did you hear Bill's response? When you asked, do you have another date in mind? He said no.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right.
I didn't know if she heard it.
Yep, thank you. So, just on a timeline basis, so David has moved that we approve the charter for publication. If we vote that, that would just authorize the charter to go into the newspaper. As I understand it, we can still make
Just a preliminary
edits
draft.
that need to be done before we send it to the Attorney General, which is on the 16th of September. That's when the charter is fixed, and it goes to Boston. It comes back, we may have to do some edits because of what the Attorney General said.
And we have to have one or more public hearings?
We have to have at least one.
Yeah.
We've scheduled one for October 3rd, and that'll be noticed in the newspaper, 10 days' notice. We may decide to have another one or more, but we have to have one. Right. Okay, so David has moved that we approve this charter as we revised it this evening for OCM publication. Is that seconded?
Betsy seconded.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
one quick clarification. I don't think, once it goes to publication, I don't think we want to be making changes before it goes to the between
Okay.
that and going to the AG. There is, opportunity after it comes back to the AG or while the AG is looking at it to make some types of changes. But I wouldn't want the OCM, the publication ones to diverge materially, I think, from the,
Right.
that goes to the AG, that would be problematic.
No, we understand. Basically, what goes to the Attorney General is essentially what we publish in the newspaper.
Right.
Right.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Okay, any discussion? David?
I plan to vote in favor of moving it ahead to the Old Colony, but mentioning again that I'm planning a minority report with the exact schedule TBD with you and with the commission. But this is a hard work, for the last 18 months, 16 months, and so it should go forward for publication.
Well,
Along
then
with, a minority report higher we put together.
So is it your idea to have a minority report as part of the publication?
Well, I'm raising it because I was debating whether to vote against sending it to the Old Colony, but given the work that went into it, and we've all worked on, the phraseology and the language, it's time to share it with the public. So I'm supportive of that, but not the overall charter.
But next week, okay, just looking what happens next, on the 12th of September, we have a meeting scheduled. That's our next meeting date, is the 12th. Next week being Labor Day. And on the 12th, we need to approve it for going to Boston on the 16th. So it's going to happen pretty quickly. It'll be the next meeting. All right, any discussion on the next step, which is to get it published? All in favor of approving this charter for publication? Larry, yep, so it looks like unanimous to publish it in the newspaper. And then if we meet on the 12th, we will, that's the last meeting date, and then it goes to Boston on the 16th. We have meetings after that, but that's, the 12th is the last meeting before it officially goes to Boston. We also have town council, our council, special counsel, reviewing the whole charter, and he'll give us his opinion between now and next week. So I guess, Mike, could you tell the commission in a couple of sentences, what can be further done to edit it after this evening? Is this it?
Well, you can, once the Attorney General has opined, you obviously are going to want to respond to any issues that the office raises. You also could make other minor changes along the way if there are things that, everyone feels comfortable as well within established, you've got plenty of examples of charters that have it in them. What you don't want to do is make major changes that are pushing the ground or anything after the preliminary.
So Mike, what I hear is you saying is that what goes in the newspaper basically is what goes to Boston. But if we do get...
Yeah.
Okay, one thing we'll be doing before it goes to the paper is to correct all of the capital letters. We're going to have all town boards and officials be capitalized. That would be our convention. We still have to do some of that within the charter. And the other question I have is, in many places in the charter, we refer to town meeting as representative town meeting. Is that a phrase that the commission wants to keep using when we say town meeting in part? Or should we be consistent?
That's what it is.
Representative town meeting.
Representative town meeting.
Yep.
That's what it says in half the places, and the other half it just says town meeting.
You're
Mike?
saying make it all the same.
Yeah, Mike, do you think that's a problem because we're not consistent currently in the charter? Sometimes we say representative town meeting, and other times we just say town meeting.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that, like, I don't think that's material. I think you'd be able to fix that, you know, between the publication and goes to the engineer. You could fix it after it goes to the
Okay,
engineer
well,
before the final.
all right.
Consistency probably is best.
Okay, so our next meeting is on the 12th, and I think you all know the process after that. It goes to Boston, we get Attorney General's comments. If our council finds a serious problem, we'll have to deal with it. And then it comes back and we get a final report ready for the select board on November 16th, and there's a public hearing on October 3rd. We have two sets of minutes. I think we haven't actually, we haven't seen the minutes of August 22nd yet, right, Michelle?
No, you're looking at August 15th.
Yeah, so we only got August 15th today. Should we want to read them over and approve them in September?
Mr. Chairman, I've read through August 15th online and again on the hard copy. I don't see anything glaring, so I'm prepared to move them unless somebody has a minor correction.
I haven't read them.
Who would like to wait until September 12th to approve
For God's sake,
August
Betsy,
15th.
read the damn
I
minutes.
haven't read them,
Huh?
I'm sorry. I've been working all day on edits.
We've got these for 2 weeks now,
With
a
your
week and a half.
consent, I'd like to wait
Oh,
until,
was that the 15th? Oh, I did read those, I'm sorry.
The
I
15th.
thought yeah, I'm sorry, I lost track. I did read them, I'm fine with them, yes.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you have a first and a
okay.
second on the
okay,
15th.
good. All in favor of the minutes of August 15th? They've been approved. August 22nd, we'll
Abstain?
deal with on August, on our September meeting. Yes,
Well, Larry abstained from the vote.
David?
I will be away the 12th unless things change, but I may, as I think about it, may submit my draft minority report for committee review. If I can go on a Zoom briefly, I'll join you, but I'll be out of town.
Can we talk about that minority report for a second?
Yeah.
David said that he thought he was going to be submitting that with the preliminary report. Is that standard? I don't know.
No, I don't know either. So say, I haven't,
Can I ask?
okay.
Michael?
I
Minority
haven't
report-
drafted, now we know the final decisions. I can finalize my
Let me
draft minority report.
Yeah, let me ask Mike. Mike, your experience with charters, the minority report, the statute seems to say do at the time of the final report to the select board. Is there any problem in David presenting it sooner than that?
Including it with publication.
Should it be part of the process of what we send to Boston and or publish in the newspaper?
Not to Boston, I don't think, but whether it gets included with the publication is an interesting question. Let me bat that around with a couple other folks on our team tomorrow morning, if that's all right.
Betsy?
The minority report will not have been seen by this group at all.
Yeah, I think-
That doesn't seem to make sense.
No, I said I'd submit it as a draft to the whole,
But I don't think it should be in the newspaper.
No, not for the
No.
newspaper, that's what I mean.
Okay,
I
no,
don't,
that's
I think
totally
we
fine.
won't have seen it.
So Mike, don't bother researching whether it's going in the paper or not, it won't be submitted.
no, all I remember is Amherst had two very good, pro and the
Yeah.
minority
That was part of
thing.
it, yeah.
But, if that goes in only with the final, that's fine. I just wanted to say I've got a draft and we agreed I would share it with the group,
Right, yeah.
and welcome
Right.
comments, but,
Yeah, right.
so I plan
I
to
was thinking about the
send that as
newspaper,
a
yes.
draft to the committee
Great.
on the 12th. So I say, but I may not be able to, likely not here.
Okay, any other discussion? I think we've covered our business tonight.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made to adjourn, seconded, all in favor? You're adjourned, thank you very much.